Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining me for another episode of Sober in Seattle. And I'm here with Rick. And you recognize that little ditty what we just listened to, right, Rick?
I do. Yes, I do.
And you were gracious enough to record that for us here at Seattle Intergroup to use on our podcast, which is really great. Did you have fun doing
I
that?
did, and I thank you for asking. It was fun.
Okay, cool. Well, we love it. It's beautiful. So you came up that with that all on your own.
Yes. Yeah. Just out of the blue one morning after you had asked me about something of the sort, I thought, well, I don't know what to do. So I just sat down with my guitar in front of the computer and it came out. So I'm glad
Awesome.
that it worked out.
I love that.
Yeah.
So that means, so you're like the third or fourth person I've talked to uh, concerning a topic of creativity in sobriety, and or just creativity in general, but how sobriety affects your creativity and that sort of thing. And you said you sat down and it just came out. So is that how your art comes to you? I mean, you're like a channel, kind of, or how does that manifest your?
Well, I think it comes from through experience a little bit. Like I'll reach into a basket of ideas that I've heard other people do, and then I'll try to create my own thing out of that. Nothing's completely original, I don't
Yeah,
think, right?
right.
And so that I think that's kind of how that happens. Is the more I study what other people do, the more I can come up with ideas for myself.
Yeah,
You
right.
know.
And so, who are some of the people you like to study?
Well, Jerry Garcia was like my hero for many years. I was a Deadhead, and I went to a lot of concerts, and I like to think that I was experiencing spiritual experiences at Grateful Dead concerts, even before I got sober. But once I got sober and realized music is Jerry Garcia said that music is fundamentally emotional, and uh, and I could really relate to that. It's the kind of art that it touches me, right, more than visual. And so I was attracted to music from a very young age. And I used to fantasize about being a musician or learning just a little bit of music. And it was when I started using it was more on the couch and trying to have an inebriated spiritual experience without the resolve to actually make it happen. So once I got sober, because I'm kind of lazy, and so once I got sober and I actually put a little bit of effort into it, because it's not real natural to me, but I put a little bit of effort into it, I was able to start to experience things that were creative at a certain level, and that was different for me.
So, you really started tapping into your creativity after you got sober.
I played both, so I
Okay.
I played in some bands before I got sober,
Hmm.
and one was an original band, and the guy that I was playing with, who isn't necessarily an alcoholic like myself, but he was very creative. And so, off and on, trying to be sober, I would play with people, and not always sober. And I started to do both. I would try to be creative and play when sober, and then not. So I've kind of been on both sides of it.
Hmm. Hmm. And so, we were talking a little bit before the before we started this official talk about how what your creativity looked like before sobriety and what it looked like after, and that there's that stereotype of the tortured artist, and that true art only comes from out of immense pain or whatever. I don't know. There's those stereotypes or maybe lies that we tell ourselves that we can only be creative when we're closer. I mean, because right, like alcohol, the Latin term for it is spiritus, and so I think there is some sort of yearning for a spiritual connection with alcoholics or drug addicts, that they're looking for something, right? And it's like and then they got the whammy of the physical issue that kind of, but I mean, I think we're looking for something, right? And
Yeah.
and art can give us that, and alcohol gives us that temporarily. But anyway, can you talk a little bit about your creativity and drunk versus sober
Yeah,
and what that looks
absolutely.
like? Yeah.
Yeah, you bet. My creativity. when when I was drinking, it didn't involve a lot of effort, right? And so I was trying to get something out of without putting things with a lot of work into it, right? And so I was depending on a lot of other people to be creative, and then I would just kind of follow in that path. And I wasn't really that creative myself, as creative as I am now, maybe per se, right? But I like, even if it was an original song that I was playing for somebody else, it was their song, right? And I would kind of follow the lead on what they wanted. I was a bass player for a long time when I was playing, for a while when I was playing, when I was still drinking. So I never really wrote a lot of songs, and or a lot of parts to songs, or once I got sober, I always craved the spiritual experience. Okay, whether I was playing a song that was a cover song, or playing an original song, or writing a song, I was always craving a spiritual experience in the music itself, you know. And but it's when I got sober that I could start to really experience spiritually and feel the music. Okay, and so even if in one of the and it took off more for me when I'm not a real prolific writer per se, but I'm not necessarily can't do it either. But it wasn't until I got sober that I started to get more creative in my writing. And kind of like the Grateful Dead, one thing I liked about them is they would take these standard folk songs that came out of the hills, right? There's many of them, and they would turn them into a pop or a rock song. And so I started doing that a little bit myself sober, as I would take some of these, because lyrically, that's not my strong point, being a very lyrical, right? But musically, I am more creative. And so I started taking some of these songs myself and then creating my own version of them, which was really cool. I really enjoyed that. And to the point where they're not even really recognizable to the original, whatever that is. It's been covered by so many different people, like a song like Going Down the Road Feeling Bad, It's been covered by, well, there's quite a few of them. And so I try to come up with my own feeling for them. And when I do that sober and I come up with a song that really works for me sober, it can give you goosebumps, and just for yourself, because it touches me, emotionally, how I like to hear it. And that didn't happen when I was drinking. That kind of creativity just didn't happen.
Yeah. So I haven't. I've been to one Grateful Dead show. I went and saw them in Eugene, like in 1988 or something. It's because they were playing with Bob Dylan. It was just after that album that they that song that they collaborated together. Touch of Grey, yeah. And so I'm a huge Bob Dylan fan, but I thought, well, Grateful Dead, it's like they're iconic, right? You got to go to a Grateful Dead show just to see what it's like. It was the weirdest experience that I've ever had at a concert. People were just sitting around playing backgammon, and it was just like, it's a whole culture thing. And like, these people, like, what else are you going to do? You've heard this concert, like, it's just a way of life now. I'm going to play backgammon during the concert, and it's just kind of weird. It was interesting to me, and I enjoyed it. It was interesting. That's when I learned about the Wharf Rats, right? Which are the sober sort of constituency within the Grateful Dead culture, right?
Yeah.
Did you ever experience any of that?
Yeah, I've been to quite a few Wharf Rat meetings, and Fish, the other band that I listen to quite a bit of. They have their own sober following, and it's called the Fellowship, PH, right?
Oh, okay, sure.
Fellowship. And yeah, that's another thing too, like going to concerts. I was at that concert, by the way, with Bob Dylan at Austin Stadium too.
Yeah.
And well, I think about that a lot too. It's like what I was trying to accomplish just as a listener, as a participant at a concert, and trying to enjoy the music spiritually, and how I thought being inebriated would help me do that. But and then I was afraid when I got sober that I was never going to really relax and enjoy myself at a concert, But once I did it, and once I started living in the Solution, and my sobriety was fairly solid, and I started going to concerts, and I learned about the Wharf Rats. It's such a cool thing to stop by the table where the yellow balloons are flying. And that's the common theme, whether you're going to Coachella or Bonnaroo, they had it, right?
Yellow balloons.
Yellow balloons at
Oh.
a table as you're walking in the venue. Anywhere you see yellow balloons in a table, that's the sober table.
Well, that's kind of cool.
It is cool.
Yeah.
And they'll have Marymore Park, they had it. Last 2 shows I went to Marymore Park, they had the yellow table with balloons. And during intermission, you can stop and talk. There'll always be somebody at the table, so you feel like there's a safe spot if you need to go.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then during intermission, they have a meeting.
Wow.
Yeah. And the only requirement is to have the desire to stay clean during the meeting,
show.
during the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Huh.
And
that's fascinating. I love that.
Yeah, it's really cool. Yeah.
Well, that was born out of an obvious need,
Yeah.
right? That to want to experience this thing sober.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I love that. That's
and then
really
the
great.
experience, talking about the experience, it became so powerful spiritually. It went beyond what I could ever imagine. Being at a concert and listening to one of my favorite artists sober and really feeling the music was so powerful. It's like so much else in sobriety. I didn't know what it was going to be like until I experienced it. And it was just really awesome.
Yeah, we can talk about that a little bit. I've been hearing, like psychedelics maybe always have been. I mean, we know Bill Wilson experimented with some psychedelics, and for obvious reasons, they've been used in a myriad of different ways and are recently being used to treat, post-traumatic stress disorder and all kinds of things. So they're obviously useful, right? For a variety of things. I'm resigned to the fact that I've abused I don't have that luxury, right? So I'm going to have to, there's other ways to achieve that kind of spiritual, and music is definitely one of them, right?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Meditation, and I'm going to have to go the hard way, right? This is there's no shortcuts for me, right? Like I've got to go the long way, and I've got to put in the work. But music is a shortcut to a spiritual experience.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I guess so. I mean, as a listener, definitely.
Yeah.
You have to. I have to put in the spiritual foundation that's solid enough to be able to open up to it and hear it and feel it, right? And feel what they're trying to convey to me. And if I'm at a concert and I'm wanting to use, I'm not going to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So thank God for AA. I'm sober enough to be able to open up that channel and hear what they're trying to do, I was going somewhere with that. But in terms of playing and trying to create something, I wanted it to come without the effort. And so I realized that if I'm going to try to create something that spiritually or creativity in sobriety, it's going to take effort, right? And it's like, I'm not a good studier, but what I discovered is if I just put in enough effort at it, then I can start to create my own spiritual experiences musically. And it doesn't have to be anything, profoundly complex. And I think that's something that I used to get caught up on. Some of the bad stories I used to tell myself is, well, you're going to need to know every mode and every scale and, all this stuff in order to understand or make or create something that's you find beautiful or something. And then I realized that, well, that's just not the case. I mean, some of the most beautiful songs are simple, and so, yeah, the effort, in the, there's the, if I may, I'm going to pull this out. In the Table Mate.
Yes, Table Mate.
I'm going to quote a line out of the Table Mate.
That's a classic.
Yeah, because I related to this very much when I read this.
Yes.
Why does the alcoholic drink, right? Well, here's one at the bottom of the page. It says, an instinctive urge for self-expression, accompanied by determination to translate the urge into creative action. I had an abnormal craving for emotional experiences without the resolve to obtain it.
Yes.
I didn't want to put the time in, right? I just wanted to take my pill, or I wanted to take my drink and I wanted to lay on the couch and fantasize about a spiritual experience, right?
That is so cool. I love the table mate. When I first got sober, Mary Ball would run the First Step meeting at the old Renton group every week, every Thursday at a table mate. It was great. And that is very right on.
Yeah. Yeah. That one I can relate to more and more of what they're trying to convey in the table mate. The longer I'm sober, I could admit that that's me too, right? Because for a while my ego would say, well, that's not me. I didn't drink for that reason. But the more I'm sober, the more I think I probably drank for just about all of them, you know. But
so you keep alluding to this idea of that you have to put in the work.
Yeah.
So I've been I have a tendency to be a little creative, but I felt for a long time that I had this like imposter syndrome. You know, did you ever experience that? Like when you were playing other people's music, or maybe when you were drinking, did you feel like you were not being your authentic creative self? Did you ever experience that, or was that not true for you?
Yeah, I did. And I think maybe what I'd say too is I just wasn't worthy of it. I wasn't good enough. I was fortunate enough, always been fortunate enough to play with a lot of people that were further advanced than I was. And I was really fortunate to do that. But I didn't have the resolve to try to get to their level either, you know? So I kind of felt like I was skating along and so I got to the point where I think in sobriety, I've gotten to the point where I have put in more effort. Okay. And the reward from that is that I have more ideas, right? And then my ideas are validated by how I feel about it, not necessarily if anybody likes it, you know, but just do it. You know, I mean, everybody is creative. I think everybody is. I was at a meeting the other week, and before the meeting started, this gal that I've known for years had her book open, and she had a pen in it, and I looked over and it was just covered with sketching, and it was beautiful, and it was really amazing. And I pointed at it and I go, "You're an artist." And she goes, "Yeah." And I never knew. Right. And so, but I think we all are, you know, but she just took the time. She didn't wake up one day and do that, you know? And so I just had to, some things have come easy to me in life, right? Some skills, like I can take things apart and put them back together. And so I did that for many years, and that came pretty easy to me. But music didn't necessarily come easy to me. But in sobriety, I found more resolve I loved it so much. I found more resolve to keep chipping away at it and pushing at it, and then realizing that even I could maybe do things that I didn't think I could do, you know, and that was really rewarding. And then I could maybe write a song, and then people go, "I love that song," and they wanted to play it. And that was validating. Still needed it a little bit, you know, and so, but it was encouraging, you know, and so, but then I've gotten to the point where, cause I do have performance anxiety as well at times. And so, but I've gotten to the point now where I can even just stand up in front of people with my guitar by myself and just play some songs and just understand that it's just creativity, you know, it is what it is, and we're all just doing it, you know.
Yeah, I love that. I saw you play a song that you wrote for your wife.
It was my version of actually it was my version of a Van Morrison song.
Oh, right, that's right.
Yeah,
it was beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you.
And this is the second interview, so like I interviewed somebody last week, and it just dawned on me in the middle of the interview, I should have had you bring in your guitar so you could play something for us. And then I'm thinking, do you have your guitar with you?
I do not.
Oh man. Okay. So I'm learning as we're going along here, but yeah, that's too bad, because I would love to hear you play your guitar. You're a beautiful guitar player.
Thank you.
Yes. And so your band, I just love that you guys are, So it's you and Matt and who else is it?
Slim.
Slim,
Yeah.
which is great. And they're all sober?
Yeah.
Okay. And you guys come down here and play at jam night sometimes, right?
Yeah.
And that's so fun, especially when you get people who want to sing and have like an actual band accompany their vocals. It's so great. It's just such a good feeling. It makes people, I don't know, it helps people feel supported in what they want to do. And I don't know, you have such a good graciousness. You guys are so gracious about it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. We get so much out of it. How it started was a friend from my home group, Janice. She had the idea of having a jam night or an open mic down here. It was her brainchild. And so she approached a few of us, and then we started doing it, and then I think, and this is the beauty of it too, I think. It was that first one we had, I think, that's when I met Slim and Matt. I didn't know them before. Oh. And Matt, he won't mind me telling this. He was, when he showed up for the jam night that night, that first one that we had, I believe it was the first one, with his drums, he was about 6 hours out of detox.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And so we had a sign-up sheet, and then we had a name. We also had a sheet for phone numbers and what you play. And if you wanted to put your name down. And so Matt wrote his name down. And then Slim and I shared the same home group. So although I didn't know he played, shortly thereafter we connected, and then we got a phone call from Matt. I think somebody gave Matt my phone number, and I got a phone call from him about 8 months later, because he was figuring it out, and been playing music with him ever since.
That's great. I love that.
Yeah, it's awesome.
That's a great story.
One of the things that I love the most about it, though, I was thinking about a couple of jam nights into it. There was some people showed up, and this happens a lot, but there was this one particular time, there was this young lady that came in, and she had an acoustic guitar, and she signed up. So she sat down to do her songs, and she said, "This is the first time I've played in front of anybody sober." Mm-hmm. And then she proceeded to, and she wrote the song, I'm pretty sure. And so the song was about sobriety, and she sang it with the emotion, that creativity that she had in her. And I don't think there was a dry eye in the room. It was just so powerful, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's just really fun to get to experience that and other people's experience with it.
Yeah, I love that. I think that I sat down and did a version of a song that, for the first time ever at one of the open mics. It wasn't at the open jam, but it was at one of the open mics. And I just, you get to a point where it's like, well, I know I don't have the greatest voice, and I know I'm not the best guitar player, but I like singing this song, so I'm going to sing it for you guys. Yeah. And what the hell, right? And it's, it's good. Yeah, I can't imagine being able to create music, but I know that as a listener, and a consumer of music, it's sometimes I have to be careful, like when I'm listening to certain music, because I will just be overcome, right? And I'll just have to, when I know I need some cleansing or some emotional sort of rearrangement, there's some songs that I know that will just put me right there, you know, and take me to where I need to go to deal with whatever I'm dealing with. So, yeah, that's amazing. So I like I like what you read out of the table mate with the kind of the demand for emotional experience without the willingness to like. It's kind of immature, right?
Absolutely. And unreasonable demand.
Yeah, unreasonable.
Unreasonable. Yeah. I always wanted to be having these, epic spiritual experiences, and I didn't want to do anything to obtain it.
Well, Grateful Dead show really is an epic spiritual experience that is provided for you.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
That's
would
kind of
agree.
an amazing thing.
I remember when they first. I remember the moment I first that they first grabbed my ear, and I because a friend was into him, and I just didn't get it really,
Yeah.
you know. But then he gave me this tape to listen to, and I'm driving down the road, and I'm listening to this tape, and they're
Were you driving down the road feeling bad?
at the time. I think I was. No, I don't think I was. Otherwise, I wouldn't have got it. Right? I wouldn't have got it.
Yeah.
But that's funny because, as a matter of fact, I was listening to this song, China Cat Sunflower, that they do. And it was off their Europe 72 album. And I'm listening to them play that, and all of a sudden they just go into this kind of monotone jam. They're staying in one key, they're staying in one chord. And then they start this other song, which was Going Down the Road Feeling Bad.
Yeah.
Right. And so what I heard them do was seamlessly
Yeah.
go from one song into another like it was practiced and rehearsed and written that way, but it wasn't,
No.
you know, because I've heard them do it after that and it's never been that way. They always do it a different way.
Mhm.
And so that, boy, I heard that and I thought that's different. That's creativity instantaneously or
Yeah.
in the moment. That's being in the moment and
Right.
creating as a band in front of thousands of people.
Right.
And so I do try to do that musically with my friends when we play. Like we'll just like hint at a different song towards the end of a song, and somebody will go, "Oh, look, he's trying to go into this other song." And we'll try to make it happen.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's a train wreck, and sometimes it's not, you know. But it's so much fun. That's creativity and sobriety too, you know. Yeah.
What do you do for your day job?
I'm retired.
Oh, good. See?
Yeah. I am. I take care of my wife, and I take care of the house, and I
Yeah.
do shopping, and I do laundry,
Yeah.
and I vacuum, and I do yard
You
work.
chop wood and carry water.
Whatever needs to be done is the less she has to do, the more I feel like I'm contributing. So that's kind of what I do.
That's awesome. And so,
Yeah.
are you finding more time to practice music then, or not necessarily?
Yeah, I do.
Mhm.
There's no excuse for me not to. So I do. I play every day.
Yeah.
I generally will play every day unless I'm on a trip or something,
Mhm.
or unless I just need a break.
Mhm.
You know, sometimes a break is creative because you can come back and old patterns are broken, and all of a sudden you have new ideas, or you approach the same song a little bit different just because you gave it some time.
Mhm.
So yeah, that can be a growth thing too. Is just giving it a break. But I try to play every day.
Mhm.
My
Mhm.
hands, if I don't play often enough, my hands will argue with me when I try to play.
Ah,
Little
okay.
arthritis and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, you got to keep them
Yeah.
limber.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. And try to learn new things.
So is it just guitar you play? I know you said you played bass for a while, but
Yeah. I'm not playing it currently, but acoustic and electric guitar is kind of all I play right now. And I sing, which I didn't used to sing at all. But now I do that too. And so that's been a growth for me, trying to get better at that. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's all been a great experience.
Yeah, that's really great. Well, we love it when you come down here and jam with your band. It's so fun. And so I'm looking forward to the next time that you guys are going to do that, whenever that is.
Soon, I hope.
Yeah, and I know you guys go over to the Bellevue Alano Club and do it.
Yeah, we have one coming up at the Bellevue Club, and then we'd like to get one scheduled here as well.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
That is super great.
And we're just grateful that we get to,
Yeah,
you know, like come down here and play, and you are also accommodating for those events. It's just, we're grateful for it.
Yeah. All right. Well, Rick, I really appreciate it. I wish I would have asked you to bring in your guitar. I'm kicking myself, but
no worries. I'm kind of glad you didn't.
Well, thanks again for coming down and talking to me.
Thank you for having me, Lara.
That's beautiful.